Hey, it's Matt Moscona. You found it. It's AFR LSU, your home for daily content on your favorite team, Fighting Tigers of LSU. And we're proud to be presented by BetUS, where this football season, get a 150% bonus on your first deposit and a 125% bonus on your next two deposits up to $2,000. Be sure to use the promo code YouTube150. Now, enjoy the video. I'd imagine if you're 17 years old, you get to be on the field pregame, and there's Odell and Justin Jefferson, Shaq, dignitaries galore. Tigers win in dramatic fashion. There's a light show with Set It Off, swag surfing, and then you get to storm the field. Probably a recruiting visit that would leave a lasting impact. Shea Dixon from On3, the Bengal Tigers, here to tell us all about it. Shady, how are you, man?
I'm good. I was good all the way until the last thing you said about storming the field, and you brushed right by it. But we've argued once today. I won't do it again.
So Shea and I and Michael Cobble are all on the Sports Takeover, WBRZ Plus, 6:30 on Tuesdays. You can hear that debate back and forth. Everybody knows how I feel about it. Stay your ass in the stands. There's no reason for people to run on the field whenever you're LSU and you've won championships. But
I see both sides, but I rolled with the recruiting side.
Yes, the recruiting side, I would imagine it went pretty well. So give us the rundown, man. Who was here and how'd it go?
It was a massive visitor list, and I mean, we were with Cobble earlier today, and he had B-roll of Brian Kelly and the coaches talking to all of the recruits on the sidelines, and from their top commits right now, and many of them were there, whether it's Harlem Berry, the number one running back in the country coming out of New Orleans, or guys like Carius Curd, who's the number two interior offensive lineman in America, but the number one player in Arkansas. Brad Davis gets him flipped from Arkansas to LSU, so it was a huge turnout. Damian Shanklin was the number one player in Indiana, committed to LSU. Was the one who took the field storming video that brought up this whole discussion. But I think you laid it out better than I could. All of those things combined with the win and with how it happened made for certainly a lasting impression. And they sell these kids on that, Matt, of Tiger Stadium, what it's like, what to play there, the environment. Well, it doesn't get any better than that. So it will be, that Bama will be the biggest visitor list of the year. So go ahead and put a check mark next to one of them that you've made a pretty big impression on, not just commits, but remember, and I'm sure we'll talk about this in a second, Matt, that this class is about wrapped up, which means they've been putting in a lot of heavy lifting for next year, and there were a ton of younger kids there. These guys who are juniors in high school.
We'll get right back to the video, but I want to take a quick minute, remind you about our friends over at BetUS, great partner of ours here this football season on AFR LSU. If you love the sports bet like I do, make sure you check out BetUS. They got a great offer for our viewers. When you sign up, of course, you get a 150% bonus on your first deposit and a 125% bonus on your next two deposits up to $2,000. Be sure to use that promo code YouTube150. It's all on the screen. Let me show you how easy it is to use BetUS. You go to the football tab, you select college football. Let's say we want to bet on the Tigers and the Hogs. There's the game right there. Tigers laying 2.5. I tell you what, that feels like a cheap price. These games are always close, but can LSU cover a field goal on the road? I think they can. Maybe let's bet $25. Place the bet. It's going to ask me to confirm. Couple of quick taps. There's your confirmation slip, and just like that, my bet is placed. Yours can be next. Get to BetUS, and remember, use that promo code YouTube150, a 150% bonus on your first deposit, 125% bonus on your next two deposits, up to $2,000 with our friends at BetUS. Now, enjoy the video. Let's talk about one of those, which is Lamar Brown from U-High, the big offensive lineman who I know was there. What can you tell us is the latest there? Because it seems to be that many feel he's probably a lock to LSU. What are you hearing?
Well, there's no locks in recruiting. You tried to set me up a little there. You've become wise in your recruiting game that that's not the truth. But and look, he goes to U-High. There has been a long line of U-High kids that have left, largely because these guys are, well, I've already done this. I go to school, on campus. I play with my high school Friday nights a stone's throw from the ops building. So we've seen it before. Now, look, they buckled in well here. I think, with Lamar Brown from the start. And I think the good thing here is they kind of encouraged it early on. I mean, Lamar was getting offers from Bama, LSU, Georgia when he was in ninth grade. We're talking about a top 5 player in the country, Matt, who can play O-line or D-line at any level in the SEC or beyond. So you see how coveted he is. That LSU sort of said, go do your thing. I mean, they could have pushed for a commitment in ninth grade knowing, hey, this kid is going to be a top 10 player. It was go out, enjoy everything, and we've seen him do that. So I think that now things are starting to wind down. We'll see him talk about maybe some top teams, but in the end, I do think that he will end up at LSU, and that would give them, if they land him, the number 1 player in next year's class, which they have the number 1 player in this year's in Harlem Berry.
That's a great setup to the next talking point, which is the reason Lamar Brown is the number 1 player for 26 now is because the number 1 player for 26, Jahkeem Stewart, is now in the class of 2025. So speaking of Jahkeem Stewart, he was up in Eugene taking in Oregon-Ohio State, which ended up really nicely for the home team as well. What can you tell us about Stewart's visit up there to the Pacific Northwest?
Yeah, now that everything's official with Jahkeem, we spent a month talking about the whole withdrawing from St. Aug right before the season and going to Edna Carr and being ineligible, but all in this effort to to reclassify. And not only does he do that, but he says he's going to commit in December, sign the financial aid agreement papers and scholarship papers in December and enroll somewhere in January. So he'll be a spring ball guy, which is good. Get him back on the field practicing, especially missing, given he's not playing this fall and not practicing with Edna Carr. Yes, he set up all these visits. He'll be at LSU, Bama. I know he's going to be at Ohio State, Michigan, which will be the final visit. And then there may be one more mixed in there, but there was this Ohio State, Oregon matchup. And maybe he'll be at Ohio State, Michigan. But Oregon, Ohio State, that one, I guess, right up there with Tiger Stadium had quite a finish. Fans rushed the field. He got to see all that. I still think, I know USC, Southern Cal, is another school in the mix here. He was at that Vegas game to see those two, LSU and USC, play. But Ohio State, I think, Matt, is the team we watched to really battle for. I just feel like Oregon's pretty far from home. As good as they are, as highly ranked as they are, as good of a recruiter as Dan Lanning is, I'm not counting them out. I just think that this one is LSU out front, but the team maybe that could give them a real run could be Ohio State. They just don't get talked about much here.
Why do you think Ohio State doesn't get talked about more?
I think that Oregon is kind of the flavor of the week right now, right? I mean, they just beat Ohio State. He was on the visit. He was all that. So, I mean, he's been out to Eugene a number of times, so that gets pumped up. And then he's been to Southern Cal a bunch. And Eric Henderson, New Orleans native, went to Carr, went to Aug, is on that staff as the defensive line coach for Lincoln Riley. So they've been on him heavily. But Ohio State, look, Larry Johnson's a guy who's been around the block and coaching as a D-line coach, just like Bo Davis, right? I mean, those guys are held in very high regard. Ohio State's been recruiting him forever, and they're a perennial powerhouse. And I think that he's been up there enough to know that he likes it. So, I don't know. People just seem to get enamored by the West Coast, so Southern Cal, Oregon. He goes on all these trips out there, but I think at the end of the day, the two teams that may be battling this out are the two that probably have had the most long-standing longevity over the past decade, you would argue, right, between Ohio State and LSU.
Shea Dixon, On3, the Bengal Tiger. One commit LSU did get over the weekend. One we were expecting is that of Jacob Bradford, Catholic High in Baton Rouge, the 4-star safety. We've talked about it a good bit, Shea, but if you would, maybe give us a reaction and a thought here on Bradford committing, what it means for the class of 25 and beyond.
It means another Catholic High grad, Matt.
Let's go.
Headed to Baton Rouge. You said expected, clearly around Catholic High circles. It was buzzing after he got the offer. But, he had been committed to Houston. Willie Fritz leaving Tulane and going to Houston and very wisely loaded up on guys who were from Louisiana, that schools that they had recruited and he was familiar with, and knowing that they've got talent sit on Louisiana and East Texas if you're at a school like Houston. But had been committed to Houston, had gotten the LSU offer before the year. Frank Wilson went out and saw him play against U High, and they had been continuing to press and saying, hey, look, we've got two safety commits. One of them, Jim Corley, is a guy who could grow into a linebacker. So They wanted another safety. We went through the whole Jonah Williams thing months ago. That's not something that we're revisiting at this stage. So it was, let's go find a guy that we can develop, that we can bring in and build some depth. And Bradford was the offer they made, and he committed on Saturday. So he's in, and I ran into, I would say his little brother, not technically yes, but not physically, Blaine, who's a junior at Catholic in the DB as well, and he was all smiles. I think he was pretty happy to see that Jacob got that opportunity and committed on it. So as the page turns, it didn't take long for Steve Wiltfong, On3's national recruiting analyst, to put in his pick for Blaine to end up at LSU. And for those that don't know, Blaine is the number one safety in the country for next year, and right up there with Lamar Brown, top 10 player in the country. So even with Jahkeem Stewart, Matt, getting pulled out of that class and going into this one, it is still stacked in Louisiana next year.
Shea, what do we look at as far as what's next as we make it through the rest of this regular season and head toward that December 3rd early signing period?
Yeah, I did in my most recent class prediction piece where I kind of try to predict all along the way from start to finish each month who LSU's got, who they end up with. And now we're at the point they've got 27 commits that they want to take 25 to 30. There's really not that many left. And the only guy I could come up with was Jacob Bradford. And then I said, but if Jahkeem reclassifies, that'll be what we monitor. So that doesn't get you bigger, right? Top 20 guy out there, top 2 or 3 D linemen in the country sitting in New Orleans and taking these visits, and suddenly now part of this group, which they've been in the top 3 since January and kind of have rotated with Ohio State and Bama in terms of the recruiting rankings. And a guy like Jahkeem Stewart can move you up in a big way. There are not many 5-stars who remain uncommitted. So that would boost this class up. I don't think they're out of it in this race for number 1, but regardless, I feel confident that this will be a top 3 class, and the best one that Brian Kelly's brought in, top to bottom, since they've been here.
Read all about it over at On3, the Bengal Tiger. He is Shea Dixon. You want your recruiting news? It's the best, and he is a big fan of field storming.
Whatever.
All right.
For the recruits.
Have a good day. Thank you, Shea.
Later, Matt.
Thanks so much for watching the video. Do us a favor, subscribe to the channel, smash that like button, hit the bell so you're notified when we post a new video, and remember to support BetUS, where right now you can get a 150% bonus on your first deposit and a 125% bonus on your next 2 deposits up to $2,000. Be sure to use that promo code YouTube150.